You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that
She's
is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
So I've been told that Rachel Zegler is a talented actress. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. I haven't watched any movies that feature her, so I wouldn't know. But to me, it doesn't matter how talented she is, or how many movies she's been in, or how many awards she's won, when she's spouting off nonsense like this. She wouldn't even have a starring role in this movie if it weren't for the 1937 Snow White. So it's pretty obvious that she should show some respect. You will not be able to tell me that this woman is anything more than a diversity hire after giving interviews like this, because she demonstrates clearly just how bad this movie is going to be. And diversity hires don't typically enrich a role they're chosen to fill. If anything, they make it worse. But it might not be bad for the reasons that are initially apparent. We've talked about the dwarves at length, and I'm not mad about the interesting casting choices. I actually find it kind of hilarious, to be honest with you. We've talked about the non-white Snow White, which is also very funny, and we've talked about how hysterically bad the costumes look. I touched briefly on this concept in my last Snow White video, but I wanted to talk about it a bit more here because I've had some time to think about it, and the more that I do, the more exhausting it becomes. Hollywood hates romance. I've said this multiple times, and I will be making a video on it at some point. But I don't think I've ever seen a company that hates love stories as much as Disney has in the last few years. In their last 2 live-action releases, the main female actresses are incredibly intolerant of the idea of a Prince Charming that they forget that love stories are part of what made those characters and tales so popular in the first place. And the reason I say that is because they reference the past. Zegler claims that it's not 1937 anymore, and with the same breath, she is also claiming that romance isn't modern. It's a thing of the past. And things of the past, apparently, traditional things, need to be cut out entirely. But then if you do that, if you cut out things like love, romance, family, building a home, and genuine friendships, all you're really left with is power and narcissism. And both of those things are equally unwatchable. The new live-action remakes can't even really be considered remakes because they are utterly unrecognizable from their animated predecessors. And Disney knows this, which is why they can't make their own movies with girl boss characters like this, because they know that no one will watch them. They know that they will have created a product that is so far removed from what people know that no one will have any interest in seeing it. But they have to double down on this notion because they have no other ideas. They do not know how to create a female character these days whose strength is in their minds or their hearts, who knows how to be kind to others, and who isn't swinging a sword around. I don't know any female who dreams of becoming a leader over that of finding a life partner. I can't think of a single one. There are many things that fairy tales can teach us, but they often have 2 distinct purposes. They are concepts that someone like Rachel Zegler will never understand. The first purpose of a fairy tale is to help young people and children understand more adult concepts, such as death or neglect or abuse or even adolescence. And for the longest time, Disney displayed stories like this rather well. One only has to look at Big Hero 6 and see how that film tackled concepts like grief and loss in order to understand the moral lessons that these movies can impart to us. It taught Hero to lean on his friends and let go of concepts like vengeance because that will never satisfy, along with the use of some really cool tech, of course. But I think my favorite Disney movie that showcased grown-up concepts in understandable ways for kids was a little movie called Inside Out. It tackled the concepts of emotions and core memories in hilarious but heartfelt ways. And even the characters that showcase the emotions, joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear, all learned new things by the end of the movie. There were a lot of metaphors, parables, and circumstances that happened in the movie to explain an emotional state, like how a happy memory can turn into a sad memory, and vice versa. It was a genius movie that I could watch again and again and again because the lessons in it were so profound, the most poignant of which was joy, realizing that sadness is an essential emotion, because only through sadness was Riley able to get the help that she needed. It was a part of her growing up process that was utterly brilliant to watch. We don't get movies like that anymore. because writers and actors have either lost all sense or else have been chased out of Hollywood by a mob that care more about sending a very exhausting message than anything else. And unfortunately, Rachel Zegler has become part of that mob. The second purpose of fairy tales is also one that Rachel Zegler will never understand, and hence why this movie will flop. And that is the concept of escapism. People and children watch fairy tales because they contain worlds and people that are far different from anything that real life can offer. In some ways, it's an ideal world. In others, it's simply the fantastical nature that draws watchers in. But regardless, people use fairy tales to escape from reality. So the idea of a hyper-independent girl boss Snow White is not something that anyone is going to want to escape into. There is very little about the idea of a girl boss fairy tale princess that is worth watching, because we see it all the time on social media and people want to get away from that. The average moviegoer will not like or be impressed by her. Newsflash, Rachel, girl bosses are not good characters because a large part of the time they are also narcissistic, egotistical robots. One only has to look at Captain Marvel to see what I mean. And it's quotes like this one that really just make me want to pull my hair out, because it proves that no one is listening. Snow White needed an update? Says who? For what reason did Snow White need an update? Even though there are very different fairy tales in the last 200 years, a lot of them remain the same structurally, and they usually end with the princess being saved by a prince. And so my question is, what's so bad about that? When did needing to be rescued because there are problems that you can't face on your own become a bad thing? The last time that I checked, the average person puts a lot of stock in relationships, whether that's with their partner, or their kids, or their parents, or their friends. So the idea of a relationship, romantic or platonic, being undesirable is an utterly foreign concept to me. And this movie is going to preach to others that being without a man is the completely preferred topic. And that isn't going to appeal to anyone. But of course, Rachel Zegler doesn't understand this because she lives in the 1% of the world that can afford to preach concepts like this, but not take the time to understand them. She is so fixated on the idea of Snow White becoming a leader that she forgets that leaders often lead from the front, and they are also often alone. And so if that is a concept that this movie is going to preach to kids and adults, that leadership, which can be quite isolating, is more desirable than a found family or true love, well, then you might as well take the money that you're about to put into this movie and set it on fire, because you won't be getting it back. Thanks for watching this video, guys. What other aspects of this new Snow White movie have you pulling out your hair, and why? And let me know down in the comments section. Until next time, everyone.